Welcome back to Common Ground, the podcast where we dive deep into the issues that matter most to everyday Americans. I'm your host, Michael, and today we're exploring some of the most pressing challenges facing our communities right now.
And I'm Sarah, co-hosting alongside Michael. These aren't just abstract policy debates we're having today, folks. We're talking about real issues that touch every single one of our lives, from the safety of our workplaces to the support systems our neighbors rely on.
Exactly right, Sarah. Let's start with something that hits close to home for millions of workers: workplace safety. We've seen some troubling trends in recent reports about on-the-job injuries and safety violations. Sarah, what's your take on why this issue seems to be getting worse instead of better?
Michael, I think it comes down to enforcement and accountability. When companies know they can cut corners on safety equipment or training without real consequences, they're going to do it. But here's what I want to know. What role do you think workers themselves should play in demanding better conditions?
That's a great question. Workers absolutely need to have a voice, but let's be honest, many people are afraid to speak up because they need their jobs. This connects to another huge issue we're seeing: the strain on our social safety net programs. When people can't rely on unemployment benefits or job retraining programs, they're trapped in unsafe situations.
You know what's particularly troubling, Michael? I've been looking at some statistics from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and workplace fatalities actually increased in several key industries last year: construction, manufacturing, transportation. These are the backbone industries that keep our economy running. And workers in these fields are paying with their lives.
Absolutely. And speaking of being trapped, let's talk about immigration experiences. Michael, I've been reading some heartbreaking stories about families navigating our immigration system. What strikes you most about how we're handling this as a nation? What strikes me is how we've lost sight of the human element. These are families, Sarah. People who are often fleeing dangerous situations or simply trying to build better lives. The system has become so bureaucratic and punitive that we're failing both immigrants and the communities they want to join. How do we balance compassion with practical concerns about resources?
And Michael, let's talk about the economic reality here for a moment. I've been reading research from the Congressional Budget Office, and it consistently shows that immigrants, including undocumented immigrants, contribute more in taxes than they consume in benefits over their lifetimes. Yet the narrative we often hear focuses only on short-term costs, ignoring the long-term economic benefits to our communities.
Exactly right. And let's be specific about this. Immigrants are more likely to start businesses than native-born Americans. They're filling critical gaps in our workforce, especially in healthcare, agriculture, and service industries. During the pandemic, we saw just how essential these workers are.
But Michael, I want to circle back to something you mentioned: people's legitimate concerns about community resources. How do we address those without demonizing immigrants?
It starts with honest conversations about capacity and planning, Sarah. When a community sees rapid population growth, whether from immigration, people moving for jobs, or just natural growth, we need to plan for that. That means investing in schools, hospitals, housing, and infrastructure before we hit crisis points. The problem isn't the people coming, it's our failure to plan and invest in our community's capacity to grow and thrive.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think it starts with recognizing that immigrants contribute to our communities. They start businesses, pay taxes, fill essential jobs. But Michael, what about the concerns people have about strains on local services like schools and hospitals?
Those concerns are valid, and they actually circle back to our earlier points about social programs and infrastructure investment. If we properly fund our schools, healthcare systems, and social services, we can accommodate growth, whether it comes from immigration or just natural population increases. The problem isn't the people, it's the underinvestment in our communities.
And that brings us to a fundamental question about priorities, Michael. We've seen communities across the country struggle to maintain basic services: libraries closing, schools operating on 4-day weeks, roads and bridges crumbling. Meanwhile, we always seem to find money for certain projects. What does this say about our values as a society? You know what really strikes me, Michael? When we invest in our communities properly: good schools, reliable healthcare, safe infrastructure, everyone benefits, not just the people who need those services most, but businesses that want educated workers, families that want safe neighborhoods, and seniors who want to age in place. These investments pay dividends for generations.
Absolutely right, Sarah. And here's the thing. We know how to do this. We have examples of communities that have made these investments and seen remarkable transformations. Towns that were struggling economically but invested in broadband infrastructure, education programs, and small business support. Cities that prioritized public transportation and saw development flourish. The blueprints exist. We just need the political will to implement them.
You've hit on something crucial there. All these issues are connected: workplace safety, social programs, immigration, community investment. They're not separate problems. They're part of a bigger picture about what kind of society we want to build.
And that's exactly why we do this show, Sarah. These conversations matter. To our listeners out there, we want to hear from you. What issues are you seeing in your communities? What solutions are working where you live?
Absolutely. And if you found value in today's discussion, please subscribe to Common Ground wherever you get your podcasts. Share this episode with friends and family who care about these issues. Next week, we'll be diving into housing affordability and community development, two more topics that touch every American's life.
Until then, keep having these important conversations in your own communities. I'm Michael.
And I'm Sarah. Thanks for joining us on Common Ground.